internal magnetic forces.
Beep beep.
Ah, I totally thought you were someone else.
Beep beep.
Huh? What's that? Huh? What does this say? Dear Tim and Moby, why Shakespeare fake? Signed, Mr. Matthews. William Shakespeare was one of the greatest playwrights and writers in English language history. Born in Stratford-upon-Avon in England on April 1564. The belief that Shakespeare was fake was dated back in the late 19th century. These people are called the anti-Stratfordians, which is a collective term for adherents of the various alternative authorship theories. Belief that Shakespeare of Stratford was a front to shield the identity of the real author or authors who for some reason, usually from social rank, state security, or gender, did not want or could not accept public credit. They believed that Shakespeare wasn't being truthful about his identity or how many of his works he actually created. These conspiracy theories include Shakespeare being a pseudonym for another author or authors.
Beep.
Is there any evidence that it wasn't Shakespeare? Well, most of the evidence point mostly to his documentation. Very little was known about him, and the only things that we have of him are several signatures, which were really hard to read, records of his marriage to Anne Hathaway when he was 18 in 1582, and his documentation of their birth children. Some business papers unrelated to his writing, and even a 3-page will didn't claim any of the works that he created during that time period. Other than that, we mostly know that he came from a very poor, low-class, and uneducated family, and Shakespeare himself dropped out of school at the age of 13, which raises a lot of skepticism about how he was literate enough to create all the works that he created, which left his impact in history today.
Beep.
Well, if it wasn't Shakespeare, who else could it be? Well, there have been a few candidates that have been presented over the years. Mainly Marlowe, Bacon, and Edward de Vere. All possible candidates that were alive during Shakespeare's time.
Beep.
No, Moby. This is Francis Bacon, an influential thinker of the time. He was born in 1561, 3 years after Shakespeare was born, and lived until 1626. He was well educated, and he was part of the Tudor court, and was overall a pretty smart guy. He traveled a lot and was especially obsessed with Italy, which was the scene of many of Shakespeare's plays, rites, and all of his poems. Additionally, many of his ideas were presented throughout all of Shakespeare's plays, and having an experience in England's social political environment, he could translate that into the works that were present in a lot of Shakespeare's plays as well. And the Baconians, which were his believers, believed that he was the actual author of all of Shakespeare's works.
Beep.
Well, the reason why he wouldn't want to claim or put his names on any of the works that he created was that his reputation of a member of the court or his upper status in society would be tarnished. The theory is that back in the Elizabethan era, that it was frowned upon for a member of high society to be a playwright or any form of entertainment because they usually have the common folks perform acts, plays, and dramas and write for them as their source of entertainment.
Beep.
Well, not so fast. There are still other viable candidates. One such as Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, who was believed to be the actual author of Shakespeare's plays.
Beep.
He was indeed. He was a great poet and a playwright. He was mostly known for his great poetry, his high marks in education, and his general appreciation for the arts. Many of Shakespeare's most elite audiences were actually close friends of the Earl, and in some of the Earl's Bibles throughout the passages which he marked ended up being in Shakespeare's plays. The belief was that Vera wrote Shakespeare's works to avoid breaking a voluntary convention against aristocrats, publishing poetry and plays, and to skip the consequences of the subject matter that he was writing about. He also stopped publishing his works shortly after Shakespeare began publishing his own. The only issue is that he died in 1604, and Shakespeare continued publishing his works some years afterwards.
Bleh. Bleh.
Well, one other candidate would be Christopher Marlowe. The Marlovians, as they call themselves, believe that he is actually the real Shakespeare. During such plays of Shakespeare, such as Hamlet, Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet, many of Marlowe's words and phrases were actually very similar throughout his works and the works of those of Shakespeare during the time. And the only issue is that Marlowe died during a tavern fight, and Shakespeare began publishing his works around that time afterwards.
Bleh. Bleh.
Well, the Marlovians actually believe that he faked his death in that bar fight in order to continue secretly writing under the name of Shakespeare.
Beep. Bleh. Bleh.
Well, there was still actually a guy named William Shakespeare, and despite all the reasons and lack of documentations, a lot of the proof is still there. Plus, his name is on the work. Although there are still a lot of questions and a lot of missing evidence that stack against him, we may possibly never know. Moby, what are you doing?
Bleh.
I'm going to be the next Shakespeare.
To beep or not to beep. Bleh, bleh.
Huh?
Wrong side. Beep.
Oh, I got stuck again.
Oh.
Yeah. The big... Dang it, my bad.
Alright, let's see.
3 seconds.
Okay, you guys want to take a break?
Break.
Dude, okay, so I need to, I guess like this.